Hey everyone, Rizwan here from Toku Secrets, and I'm joined by.
Nathan Desaw.
Hey, Anthony Davis.
Alright, tonight we're gonna continue where we left off last night with our Tokkyuger review. Previously we did episodes 1 through 10, so if you haven't heard those yet, I recommend stopping where you are, going back, listen to part 1, and then come back to part 2. You got it? Okay, so we're gonna talk about Tokkyuger episodes 11 to 16 tonight. And just as a reminder, this is a way for us to break it down by saga, more or less, in the main events in Ressha Sentai ToQger. Um, like we were saying before, there's a lot of filler and there's a lot of things like more filler than anything else. But we're about to hit on a major point. I'm gonna let Nathan kind of talk about some more, and then we'll go from there. Nathan.
All right, appreciate it, Riz. So to start off, basically episodes or stations, as they're called here in ToQger, 11 and 12, they're more like combined into a two-parter, and we do get a few of these. We actually get a few of these in ToQger. I think this could be considered the first big one.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and, and episode 11 starts off, and it's called The Emperor of Darkness, and well, it features the arrival of the Emperor of Darkness.
Dun dun
Basically,
dun.
yeah. So basically, what happens is that in the episode, the Tokugers are enjoying a day off at the amusement park, and Wright, I'm not sure exactly, but basically, Wright gets cut off. Well, not exactly cut off. He gets separated from the others, and while he's out, he meets this young man who appears to have some sort of fascination with this shining balloon. And like, and while he sits down and he's talking to Wright, he reveals that he has more of a fascination for shining things.
I find that weird that he's like into shiny balloons. Like balloons aren't really shiny, dude.
Pretty
Yeah.
shiny, shiny.
Unless you get one of those really cheap ones, like the ones that are like sparkly paper stuff. But
Yeah.
that
Uh,
wasn't one of them. That was like a red balloon, I think, right?
I think so, actually. Kind of funny though.
Yeah. Look at the shiny object. Oh wait, you're not really shiny. But look at the shiny object.
He could have been fascinated with someone else, like maybe a ring or something. I mean, that's
I would much prefer if you were fascinated by like some jewelry
Yeah.
that Wright wore or something. But you know, that's to each his own.
Yeah. I think they explain it like what he said.
You were breaking up, Anthony. Say that again.
Yeah.
Alright, hang on. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, what I was saying was that like I think they'll explain it later on how like what he means when he actually like shiny things.
Yeah, that's a pretty big plot point, which we'll get to later
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So anyway, so at first it looks like this guy's just probably going to be a standard guest star that we'll pretty much just see in this episode, and then he'll be gone and we'll never see him again. But it quickly turns out that that's not the case because a bunch of the actually not a bunch, all of the Shadowline villains, at least the villains that we had up until this point, at this point, show up, and that includes General Schwartz, who the Tolkugers, I'm pretty sure, already encountered in a filler episode before, and he introduces them to the other two big villains that we have here. That would be Baron Nero and Madame Noir. Is that how you pronounce her name?
Yeah.
Okay. And they end up, and once they show up, they they reveal that this young man that Wright was talking to was none other than the Shadowline's leader and the Emperor of Darkness, Zett.
And we're just like, what? Because in the beginning of the episode, like all of the villains except even what was the guy's name? You just said Schwartz and
Nero.
Nero, they're all waiting for their leader to arrive on their train. They're all like big ceremony for his arrival, and then we see this monster come out, and it's like, wait, that's not our leader. Like, where's the emperor? He's like, well, he's not here right now. He's off doing his own business. So it was nice to reveal. They can sort of change it up because we assumed that it was going to be like some freaky looking monster demon or something, you know.
I personally like the idea of having at least one villain with a human form, because I think I said this in another video I made. Usually, whenever a villain is given a human form, they're either a villain that is 1 second. Sorry about that. Anyway, so basically, what was happening was that what I said was that whenever a villain is given a human form, they're usually either the ones that are redeemed or the most complex, at least. So
Yeah.
the idea of having a villain with a human form in this Sentai was actually really cool. So
It's really refreshing because normally you see like these big monsters with scales and horns and nails and claws and
Yeah.
good lord, they're like frightening little monsters unless you're like I don't know, the thing from Power Rangers in space with the he was like the bee thing.
Oh
Then he's
yeah.
just stupid looking. But yeah, I was actually pretty excited to see like a human villain that had like what in my mind he has like no superpowers or anything. He's just like a run of mill dude with monsters at his beck and call.
A lot of people were expecting that he was going to be Tokyo 6.
A lot of people have many theories on what he's going to be.
and and to be fair, I can kind of see where they were going because for a while I thought that Z was also going to be Tokyo 6 because like we already have like one scene where he's clearly already having an established relationship with Light. So
See, I was gonna say that he would be Tokyo 6, but around the time that I started watching Tokkyuger, like I watched from the beginning, but I didn't watch religiously every week. I'd watch like 5 episodes like in one weekend or something, and in 5 weeks I wouldn't watch, and I'd watch again. So for me, it'd be like, well, okay, crap. I've seen photos of Tokkyuger 6, and it's an orange suit.
Mhm.
And in my mind, I'm not. Zett's not gonna be orange. That's just kind of no. He's not an orange looking kind of guy. He seems more purple to me because of the outfit he
Yeah.
wears. So I was like, Tokyo 7 purple around like episode 40, maybe?
And what's really funny, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but it's when we actually get to that point, it's gonna be funny when I bring it up.
Yeah, but
yeah,
Yeah.
I know if I know what you're talking about, it really is going to be funny.
it's
Yes.
hilarious. Anyway,
So anyway, basically all the other Tokyugers show up, and the episode pretty much ends with with the Tokyugers fighting all the villains that are there. That being General Schwartz and that being General Schwartz, Baron Nero, and Madame Noir, and they pretty much get their butts kicked, and they're ready to finish off the Tokyugers, but Zett, sorry, who is apparently fascinated by their shining light, orders the Tokyugers not to orders the villains not to destroy the Tokyugers, and but then just as that happens, Zett starts to weaken, which of course makes sense because even though he is fascinated by shining things, he still is a shadow at the end of the day. And I think it was established earlier in the series that when shadows are exposed to like too much light, they'll start to weaken and possibly die. So, like,
Yeah.
didn't
he's
we
like a
have that?
witch or a zombie.
Or vampire, but without all
There
the.
you go, vampire. That's what I was trying to think of. It's like I know it's some kind of movie monster, witch, vampire. I'll get to it eventually. Anyway,
So, so they, so the shadow line retreats, and in order to keep the Tokyugers busy, they launch three dark liners at the Tokyugers, who they quickly destroy with Tokuo and Dieselo, and and then the episode ends on a cliffhanger where the Tokyugers are getting ready to leave for the next station, and then a new shadow monster called the Lamp Shadow, who's because apparently a new monster that Zett is using.
he was there in the beginning of the episode too.
Okay. He basically uses this light, and basically what happens is that all the Tokyugers, except for Right, are pretty much left. I guess I want to say that it takes away their imagination, and because of that, we had to say that at least once in the video.
Exactly.
It is a quota. As long as we're talking about Tokkyuger or whenever Tokkyuger gets mentioned, you must say imagination. Now I said it twice. Carry on.
Okay. And since they're not able to, and since they don't have imagination, they cannot see the Ressha, which we even established that in the previous episode with Togachi dies at sunset, and they can also
that episode.
yeah, and they can also not become Tokyugers anymore. So that leads into the next episode, Station 12, which like, just to give a brief preview, this episode was actually kind of cool. Like, it definitely helped like piece together some of the parts of the puzzle that revolved around their past, at least. Basically to kind of sum it up, Togachi, Mio, Hikari, and Kagura, since they're devoid of their imagination, they're pretty much all around like doing like typical career related stuff. And Right is going around trying to convince them, like, it's basically like, what are you guys doing? You know, we're Tokyugers, and you know they're probably just gonna look at him, just being like, what the heck are you talking about? And so what happens is that, so basically what happens with the episode at the end, I might need my memory refreshed because I can't remember exactly how they regain their memories.
So basically, Right goes around trying to convince them all to, you know, that they're Tokkyugers, they're good guys, they're fighters, they're warriors, all that good stuff. And during the time he's been doing this, he starts having flashbacks to when they're children, and he remembers, and this happens a lot during the first 10 episodes as well, where there's this one little flashback with no real context about a really big tree on a hill. And Wright starts remembering about a clubhouse that they had there, and how when they were kids, they would go up there and play and hang out. They even had like a clubhouse. It's pretty cool, actually. I'm kind of jealous of them. That's a really cool place to have a clubhouse. So, you know, every kid has like their own way of making a clubhouse and a tree house and all this good jazz. And well, the rule for this one was, if you're gonna be in this tree house hanging out and playing with everyone, you have to have a pass to get in. And so they all make their own pass to enter their treehouse, and it's really kind of cool. Like, they have like rules written on, like, okay, we will always support each other. We'll always be like friends with each other. We'll always be there for each other. And like, they have a couple other rules that are not as consequential as anything else, but basically, these passes that are written on paper as when they're children are actually the passes they use to board the rainbow line now as Tokkyugers. It just kind of transformed into something more high tech looking, which is actually kind of common in a Toku world.
Yep.
So yeah, he remembers that, and he starts reminding them of the past, and that triggers them to revert back to Tokkyuger status, and they fight Lamp Shadow, all the 5 of them together.
Yeah.
And defeat him and go off to the next railway.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm gonna say this, like, every so often there is, like, either in Tokusatsu or in any television show, there has to be some type of point where half of the main cast are like lost their memories. They have to remember who they are, and et cetera, because it's been done both in Tokusatsu and Power Rangers.
And anime.
Anime.
Look at Digimon.
No, right? Season 1.
Yeah. But anyway, so before we go to 13 and onwards, what?
We did mention a show, Tokyo, right?
I believe so, but if not, yeah, we had the birth of ToQger in this episode, which is basically the combination of Dieselo and Tokyo into one bigger mecha, which is
Yeah,
actually a bit of a badass in my opinion.
Yeah, it looks
and
pretty.
oh, go ahead.
No. I was just saying I like the look of a Show Tokyo.
Yeah,
It just. I'll admit that the whole thing sticking out from the shoulders looks kind of silly, but I've kind of grown to expect some kind of silly stats.
Hamburgers.
Tokyo with a Tokusatsu mecha.
Yeah. I like the visor he has.
yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
Now,
wasn't there something about them not being able to combine each other like that?
yeah, we're gonna touch that on in episode 13, I believe.
Yeah, they actually acknowledge that in the next episode.
Yeah. So, before we get to that though, I'm gonna just take a moment to talk about this because I feel this is really important to talk about here. So, we get episode 11 where the big bad, basically the guy who is the big bad villain of the entire season, appears. And he does a pretty dick move. He goes off and, tests them and toys with them a little bit by letting them go free from the big battle where he could have just easily wiped them out. And then he plays with them. He sends Lam Sato out to do the test, see how if they'll get their imagination back and if they'll still sparkle after. He was really doing this to make them sparkle. Like he wanted to test the limits. Now, this kind of renewed my interest in Tokkyuger, to be quite honest, because before that, like I said in part one, filler, 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 little bitty plot. And by little bitty, I mean tiny little bit. Nothing really consequential happening, and then more filler. So I expected the entire season to turn around at this point, and we get into something more cool, like maybe some direction. Because as of before Zett's appearance, there is no real direction. There's no real overall hierarchy goal we're trying to get to. There is nothing. It's go from town to town, vanquish the Sato, bring back the light, and go on. There is nothing going on here.
Mm.
But again, Tokkyuger disappoints me because the next couple episodes are filler. But the filler is actually kind of good in some cases. I actually like some of the filler we got. So, yeah. That's my little soapbox rant about this part of Tokkyuger because I feel like it needs to be said.
And as Rich said, speaking of good filler, the next two episodes, while technically filler, are actually kind of decent filler episodes. Basically at the beginning of episode 15, no, 13. Sorry about that. We figure out that that since the Tokyugers have been using Sho Tokuo too much, the main Reshas are damaged, and in order to gain more power, in order to create Sho Tokuo, they have to find other support Reshas. So, in the next episode, the Tokyugers are sent after a faint support Resha, which which in the episode, Wright finds out that it's the Fire Resha, and the episode pretty much ends with them using Dithelo to fight with Fire Resha, which is a really cool support Resha. Actually, I really like it. It basically becomes a gun that can be both a fire extinguisher and a fire gun, which I really like because it instantly reminded me of an alternate mode that the main writer for one of my favorite Kamen Rider series, Kamen Rider Forze, had, where the main writer had this alternate mode called Fire States mode, and it gave him this gun that could be both a fire gun and a fire extinguisher. So I really like that. And aside from giving us a really cool Resha, it was also kind of cool because it kind of established a little bit of the relationship between Wright and Mio, like not a love relationship, but more like kind of showing how different Wright and Mio work. Like, I'm not sure how to explain it, but like, do you guys get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, it may have been a filler episode, but it's it. This series does it. This series does surprisingly have some filler episodes that are actually kind of cool, and this is one of them.
I feel like there's some good filler. I'm not gonna say too much about future, but there is good filler. I just don't think there's as much as I would like there to be. The filler that we do get, by and far, is mediocre or not that great for the most part. It's not as interesting. But then there are a couple of gems that we're gonna actually talk about in episode 14.
Yes, episode 14 is definitely one of the.
It's actually our collective favorite filler episode in the season, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so.
And it's probably and it definitely is because it's an episode devoted to. I'm pretty sure he's every single one of like all three of our favorite Tokkyuger Hikari.
Well, he's our favorite main Tokuger. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you guys will figure out what we mean in the next video.
Yeah.
And anyway, so what happens is basically the premise of the episode is that the the Tokyugers are still looking for new support Reshas, and they stop at this one station where they think there's a new one, and and while they're out there, a very incompetent and somewhat crazy cop arrests all the Tokyugers except Hikari, who stayed behind to read a detective book because apparently there's been a series of robberies on the station, and basically the episode is Hikari, who dresses up like Sherlock Holmes, which is just badass.
It's actually pretty fun. I love this episode.
He's pretty much going around trying to catch the real culprit, and it was a really cool episode. I really enjoyed it. Basically, what happens is that it really just shows how Hikari is definitely the most intelligent and, in my opinion, the most competent Tokuger. Like, you guys got anything to say about it?
Well, okay, for me, Hikari is probably my favorite Tokuger in the season for one simple reason. He has a really cool character. He's not okay. Like I don't know if we really touched on it too much last part. We're gonna do like a character review of everything at the end of this mini series review.
Mm-hmm.
But right up until this point has been a pretty lousy leader. Even Mio called him out in episode 13 when Wright put getting food over finding their support fire Ressa, and Wright's just not that interesting to me. I find him kind of boring actually
Me too.
because he has the same answer for everything you do in life. I can see it in my head. I can see the way to win in my imagination.
I can imagine our victory is.
Yeah.
For him to be the one with the most imagination, I mean, no, I still think, no matter what the show says, I still think Kagura has the most imagination.
And speaking, okay, Kagura is a really good character. See, it's probably my second favorite of the main five. So, Kagura's pretty badass. I love her. She's adorable.
Yes.
She's sweet. You can't actually hate Kagura. You just can't.
It's a thing to hate.
Mio is pretty. She's kind of bland. I mean, there isn't much to her really. She's kind of the motherly figure that takes care of Kagura when Kagura gets kind of upset with whatever's going on in that episode.
Yeah.
And she goes around mothering everyone. She's like, well, right, you gotta be more responsible. Oh, well, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And I'm like, God, have some character aside from being like the
Me and my mom. Me and my mom.
Yeah. And then there's Takati. I mean, Takati just...
He's just there.
I'm sorry. He sucks as a character. He really is horrible as a character. I mean, yeah, I know he's a nerd, and he's a nerdy kind of guy, but... And I'm a nerd and all that stuff, but...
Yeah, we're all pretty much nerds, but there's to a limit where you can't just be that nerdy. I mean, come on.
I mean, okay. When it began, I was like, okay, Takati is gonna be like the smart, nerdy one who solves all the things.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not. He's just really nerdy, really fumbling around. He has no redeeming character qualities, in my opinion.
In the very first episode, what does he do? He trips getting out of the train.
Yeah, that was kind of painful.
Yeah,
and I don't even think the show is trying to hide the fact that he's probably the most incompetent fighter ever, because like his main weapon is a blaster, and even Kagura who they're trying to establish is a really bad fighter, at least has a more close combat sort of weapon. So even his weapon shows that he's definitely not a competent fighter.
Yeah.
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 So I mean, that's the four characters. But then Hikari Tokyo Green for whatever is he for?
Tokyo Yongo.
Younger.
No, he's the four. Yeah, Tokyo four.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, look, the things I was saying for Takagi to be, Hikari was it. He was really
Yes.
brainy. He was really resourceful. He was the one that was always figuring out what to do next. He was the one with the game plan. And up until then, he was in the back of our minds. Like he had his moments where he told everyone that you're losing focus of what's really important here
Mm-hmm.
and all that. But there wasn't very much depth to his character, and I was getting concerned that there wouldn't be, given Takati's had like what 7 filler episodes so far.
Mm-hmm.
That's a gross over exaggeration, but there's a lot of Takati filler up until now and after this point. And I'm quite frankly really tired of Takati filler when there could have been filler for better characters like Hikari or Kagura or even Wright. For God's sake. I'd have been okay with Wright having more of a character than, hey, I'm hungry, let's eat. He's not Goku.
Nope.
But unfortunately, I mean, you could kind of say, and I don't mean to offend Anthony here because I'm about to talk about one of his favorite Sentai characters, but I can really kind of say that Hikari is just like an instant replay of our previous Sentai Green and Kyoryuger, where like he's a really interesting character and he's really awesome, but unfortunately the show could care less about him and really doesn't want to give him any development.
What is about our green Sentai Rangers? Why we like them? Why I like them so much? I don't get that.
Do you like Doc?
Not really.
He
Okay.
was eh.
It was
I mean,
Doc was really eh. I mean, he wasn't all that great. Doc and Takati would really get along.
yeah, they would get along because they're both similar and they both dress similar too. I just noticed that.
Oh
'Cause
my
he wears it-
god, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Oh my god.
Because you think about it, you know how like Tokachi, he'll put like his pants. He'll always roll them up for some reason. Like his pants legs, he'll roll them up for some reason.
Yeah.
Togachi's pose doesn't look awkward, like he's wiping his hands on his pants after he's gone to the bathroom or something.
No, that was Doc, not Takati.
Tokati, he bows. That's what's really
Yeah.
odd. He bows.
They're both awkward poses, I guess.
They really are.
But
But anyway, I really loved the detective story. I wish there was more of it. I really like the fact that okay, I've probably said this before. I've probably not. I don't even know anymore. But Hikari and his kingdom are the best thing in the world. It's like okay. I've read articles about like people who are ADD and they have like this one thing they have to do to like focus their brains because they're too smart to just do one thing at a time. Takati is basically that. He has a kingdom outfit, which for those that don't know,
you said
Stick.
Togati, not Hikari, sorry.
wow. I am so sorry, Hikari. That was a bad insult to Hikari. I am so sorry.
He's
Please,
like, Nani? He's like, Nani?
Toku gods, please forgive me for my sin, for I have sinned. I
Yeah,
really
well,
have. I'm not even being facetious or like sarcastic here. That was bad.
Hikari's a nice guy. He'll probably forgive you.
He
Yeah.
probably will. He forgave Kagura when he broke the Kendama.
Yeah,
Yep.
like that's like his first prized possession, you know.
Yeah. Anyway, so Takati has the Kendama, which what? I'm done. I am done.
Hikari has the kingdom.
Hikari has the Kendama, and for those that don't know, it's a stick with a cup with a string attached to a ball. You flick the wrist, try to get the ball into the cup, and if you get it in, you win a prize. I don't know. It's just like a mind game. It's like a
it's more or less like a ball in a cup, but it's Japanese, you know.
ball in a cup.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, he uses that in the same way Dr. House on House MD uses like his ball to bounce on the wall. Hikari does the same thing. He has to have something in his hands, doing something to focus him in on what's going on around him. And using the kingdom to think helps enable him to catch the shadow of the weak and put him behind bars and destroy him and get his Tokkyuger friends out of jail and tell the detective, hey, you're kind of screwed up.
Yep. Oh, and I will say this: I'm not sure if like a lot of you viewers out there actually watch this anime, but the moment when I saw like Hikari like running in like this outfit he had on, he actually really reminded me of Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho, because like that was really
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
Hmm.
except Hikari wore a Sherlock Holmes esque coat
yeah.
and a hat. Did he have a pipe?
I don't know if he had a pipe or not.
In my mind, he has a pipe.
I think he did.
That
And
was
if he
just
didn't, pretend he has a pipe.
you could pretend. Nah, never mind.
Oh no, he has a pipe. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Imagination.
Imagination! Okay, we're at our limit now.
So basically, so pretty much the episode ends. Hikari saves the day, and they also end up getting a new support Ressha called the Police Ressha, which they combine with Tokkyuger. And the Police Ressha is actually pretty cool. It's definitely one of my favorite support Reshas. It's very reminiscent of SPD and Deca Ranger.
Yeah, I was reminded of Decker Ranger a lot with this one.
Yeah, even the episode itself also does kind of poke a little bit of fun at Deca Ranger, since there's a scene where, since there were a few scenes where like the detective, one of the detectives who arrest the Tokkugers, he's constantly being called boss by some of the lower detectives, and he keeps on saying, "Don't call me boss," which was kind of a joke that they did in Deca Ranger somewhere, where Bond, Deca Red, would constantly call Hoji, Deca Blue, uh, his partner, and Hoji would always say, "Don't call me partner." So
Yeah.
it was actually kind of a funny nod to Deca Ranger.
Speaking of that police officer guy, I know it's probably gonna sound like, I'm probably gonna like sound like cliched or not, but I really like almost like, when I first watched this episode, I was assuming so much that the police officer was the shadow in the sky trying to like get Toku's in trouble. That's
Dude,
what I
I
thought.
thought so too. I was like, why is he not the Shadow? That'd be even more perfect. Get rid of the bumbling idiot who probably shouldn't be a detective anyway.
Yeah, like
I feel bad for out of town wanting to go back to normal.
I know, right?
But still, oh, aside from that, maybe what have made it perfect, it's still a pretty awesome episode anyway.
Yeah, it was.
So the next episode, Station 15, it is called "The Thing in Your Heart," uh,
Mm.
and basically, now, now I'm just going to be honest with you. This is one of the episodes that's not exactly as fresh in my mind, because a lot of the episodes, especially before Station 17, are kind of fuzzy on me. So I'm going to try and explain this episode as best as I possibly can.
If you want, I can do it.
Yeah, that'd probably be better.
Yeah, I
This
can. I can
was
do
my
that.
most hated episode, man. I hate this episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about little mods and boo, dude. That's cool.
We haven't gotten to my most hated episode yet, though, and it's probably going to be a while, but yeah.
All right. So the gang realizes that they're doing some tests on the train, or they're discussing the imagination among all the Tokizers, and it's concluded after the process that Mio has the least amount of imagination among all five of them, and it starts to weigh down on Mio because he's like, well, I'm just kind of dragging the team down. I'm kind of like useless. They don't really need me. To be better off without me. All this bull, whatever. Like just thinking like that. So they get to the new station, and there's a Sato here named Hammer Sato. Hammer Sato? Yeah.
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 And this dude is actually probably the most powerful Sato I've seen in the season.
He's actually the best looking one I've seen too. The way he looks design wise, is like
Yeah.
pretty cool.
He's probably the best Sato I've seen in the season, so yeah. Um
And I
he
definitely like his gimmick with what he does with his hammer,
yeah, I'm about
because
to get to that.
yeah,
So anyway, his ability is extracting the deepest desire that you have. So and then he'll smash it in front of you with a hammer. So if you desire, like, I don't know, the girl next door, he'll extract that desire from within you, make a replica of whatever it is you want, take his big ass hammer, and destroy it.
He'd be like, nope, you like this thing?
Nope,
Bam, I'm
gone.
destroy it.
If like little kids like a toy. Oh, you like this toy? Nope, gone.
This toy's gone. I'm
Oh,
breaking
you
it.
like this car? Nope, gone. Done. No more.
Definitely a creative way to create negative energy, though. So
Yeah,
It is
most definitely.
because the thing about Tokkyuger is they're always trying to get more darkness. It's like a harvesting for them, and the Tokkyuger's like, well, we're here to stop that and get the light back. So, all right. So, anyway, going on. The Tokkyugers fight the Hammer Sato, and Hammer Sato sees Mio as Toku 3 and uses the skill on her and extracts a little creature named Mikey from within her. And in Japan, the best way to describe the creature is that he looks like a sumai. And for those that don't know, a sumai is a pork dumpling. So, question number one: do children in Japan play with toys that resemble food? And if
fine, Floyd.
so, what the hell?
Yeah.
That
Anyway,
Mikey just looks kind of creepy to me too. Like
yeah.
just weird.
So Hammer Sato is unable to destroy Mikey because Mikey is too powerful and like overpowers him and runs away. Mio follows him confused as hell and is like, what is going on here? And as Mio follows, he's like, wait, you're the toy that I had growing up. Actually, Hikari's the one who figures it out. Yay, Hikari being awesome again. So, Hikari reminds her of the toy and how it's possible that Mio desired the toy back in her life so much that Hammer Sato was able to pull a mental representation of the toy and make it into like an actual creature. And he basically Mikey was holding back the imagination that Mio had because see, it was too painful for her to remember Mikey existed. I think. Um, so Hikari helps hide Mio and Mikey away, and Hammer Sato finds them. But the Tokyugers are able to hold the Sato forces back enough, but it's not good enough. Mikey has to sacrifice himself to save Mio from Hammer Sato's attack, but by doing so, he grants her the imagination that she's been lacking all this time, and this really overpowers Mio with the imagination to defeat the Sato. But before they can actually defeat the Sato, General Schwartz appears, steals away Hammer Sato, and the Tokyo users are left to deal with the Kreiner robos again, with Tokyo Police and Diesel O Fire. And Mio tells Tokyo users, "Hey, I have memories of Mikey, and I hope that when I go back home, I can see the doll again and remember all the good times we had with him being a real thing." Did I leave anything out?
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
So I guess I I could kind of call this episode okay at least because I mean with a character as boring as Mio, sometimes you have to appreciate whatever character development you can get. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
But pork
it's
dumpling toy? Really?
you could have done it so much better. So
I mean, I guess it's better than the stupid toys that people had. It's like a representation of AIDS.
And I like this episode. I still don't like the episode, but I like this episode better. I like the one she did where she was having that relationship with that guy, and
That was
like
stupid. That's
I
never on
hate that
her
episode
thing.
so much.
and I know this it doesn't have anything to do with anything, but a funny thing about that episode, and I'm just gonna point that out. The guy who played the girl that she had a crush on was actually the same guy who played Geki Chopper.
Oh my god, I actually remember that now.
Okay, well that I was just throwing that out there. That's not really that.
Yeah. Anyway, Next episode, episode 16, and the final one for this part of our review on Tokkyuger. Um, Hammer Sato is thanking the General Swartz for helping him out, and General Swartz gives him a dark train to go wreak havoc on people. Meanwhile, the Tokkyugers are still meandering around, like traveling here to there with no real purpose, and arrive at another dark station where they find the children are willingly jumping on the General Swartz's train, and Right, Mio, and Hikari also enter the train and become like they succumb to the power of the train, which keeps them in the restaurant talking and eating forever, while the children play around in a museum that that the Sato built.
And I just want to say, like, just real quick for this setup, I'm not a huge fan of it because that means that the only two Tokyugers that are able to help are Togachi and Kagura. Now, Kagura, I have no problem with. It's the fact that Togachi is the other one because
Yeah.
the entire time this entire series, especially in the early episodes, I got the hint that maybe Kagura and Hikari had a thing going. So this episode could have been a cool episode to kind of help.
So the way I see it is that I kind of see that Kagura and Hikari are kind of like being shipped together, and Mio and Tadashi, they're kind of shipped together. So that's what I'm thinking.
Well, we'll get to that later, but yeah, pretty much. Um, so Takati and Kagura are separated from the others during all this chaos, and they meet a girl named I forgot how to pronounce her name. It's AOI for those that are interested.
Yep.
And she believes her little brother was kidnapped by the train owner, Sendal Swartz, and they discover that it's a satellite train to take away all the to have all the children that are unusually happy and giving them giving them their deepest desires, which is to have fun and be kids with no school, no whatever. So Takati and Kagura go find Swartz, and he kicks them and Aoi out of the train. Aoi. I'm gonna call her. I'm gonna call her Amy,
Hmm.
because that's easier to say.
Yeah.
Sorry, Japan. So Kagura and Takati go after the train in police Ressha, and Amy uses her imagination to find. She helps Kagura find the children who are about to have their dreams smashed by the hammer Sato again, because he's taken all the deep desires from in them and smashing them just like General Swartz wanted, because kids have great amount of desires and they're all really cool. And having them destroyed, like having a kid's dream destroyed, is probably the worst thing you can do. And if you're doing that to somebody, you're a horrible human being and you used to go fling yourself off a building. I don't know.
Just go off and just like rot somewhere.
So, Kagura is forced to fight him on her own, and she uses her imagination to snap the three idiots eating out of their trance, and they help fight off not Tokyo, General Swartz, and yeah, it's just another fight, and they defeat the Hammer Sato using the with police resto, and they get the kids back to safety, and they use So Tokyo to destroy him. There's really nothing else to the episode. I mean, just more lar, we can't defeat him. However, at the very end, something cool happens.
Yep.
Conductor and Ticket receive a gift from their central Rainbow Center.
We'll see that. We'll actually see that later.
Yeah, we'll see the Axel base later on. And the gift that they've been given is a little iPhone-looking device called an applet sensor.
Yep.
Well, we don't know what it's called. We just know that it's like another Tokyu sensor for another Tokyuger to be born.
Yeah.
And another Ressa, it's orange colored. So we're getting to 6 Ranger next episode.
And that's usually actually, no. I'll talk about that in the next video.
Yeah. But this is where we're gonna cut our review down, because we are at 45 minutes for part 2.
Mm.
And I think this is where we would like to have a break and then regroup and get ready for the next part of this miniseries. So, with further ado, do y'all have any further thoughts on what we've talked about so far?
Well, for me, so far, I still like the beginning parts with Zett and his introduction, but and of course I like Hikari's episode. Like that's my favorite episode of all time.
Detective Kinema for
But
life.
exactly, but everything else was just mediocre, honestly.
Yeah,
I like I said, I do like the two filler episodes where they get their new ratios because that definitely showed proof that you can't that this series could give us good filler episodes, but still, I mean, even those I've seen better filler episodes from better Sentais, so I guess
Hey,
by this point I could say that I didn't hate Tokkyuger. It was just a Sentai that I thought, yeah, it was okay, and yeah, that's about it.
yeah. For me, it's like I said before. I really thought with Zet appearing, we would get more Zet, and we did for 2 episodes. He was around. He was doing stuff, and then he kind of faded to the background. He was around. He all he really did was just sit in his throne and talk about shiny objects. Meanwhile, Lady Noir is plotting to have him marry her daughter Glido, which is a really creepy idea given that he is human and she is the daughter of Grimace McDonald's. Um, there's no nice way to put it. She is literally the purple guy from McDonald's
Grimace,
daughter, Grimace.
Grimace's daughter, and that
Yeah.
could be possible. I mean, after all, we don't see her father, so yeah,
So who's the daddy? I mean,
yeah.
Um. So yeah, lady, I just want to know like how, why. Glitter is just a creepy looking character. Okay,
she just seemed like
just so creepy looking. The eyes are creepy as hell, and it's really off a topic, but it's still kind of important because he's creepy as hell. But next time we'll be meeting a new character, and it'll be pretty awesome. But for now, yeah, I think that's the end of our talks on episodes 11 to 16.
Yep.
So until next time, farewell.
Bye. 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 Bye.